Imagine waking up one morning with the unshakable certainty that you are a good person. Not just decent, not merely average, but righteous. The kind of person who stands on the right side of life's moral ledger. You recycle, you tip generously, you condemn cruelty when you see it, and you applaud justice when it is served. And in this quiet conviction that you are moral, that you are good, you find a strange kind of peace. But what if this confidence is not virtue at all? What if the soothing comfort of being good is, in fact, the ego's most elaborate disguise? What if morality, that shining compass we cling to, is not always a guide to truth, but a mask the ego wears when it wishes to appear divine while remaining utterly human? Let's press this thought deeper. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You expect to see your reflection, a familiar face, your eyes, your scars, your history. Yet behind the reflection, almost imperceptible at first, you glimpse another presence. It copies your movements perfectly. When you smile, it smiles. When you frown, it frowns. But the longer you stare, the more you realize it is not you. It is something wearing you, borrowing your gestures, your voice, your values. And when it whispers, it sounds like morality itself. The ego, cunning and timeless, has always sought survival, not just in the raw animal sense, but survival in status, in narrative, in meaning. It does not simply wish to live, it wishes to be right. And what better armor could it wear than the shining breastplate of morality? To cloak itself in goodness is to secure untouchability. Because who dares to question the moral? Who dares to argue with the righteous? And yet how many wars have been fought in the name of goodness? How many friendships shattered? How many families divided? How many civilizations crushed beneath the certainty that we are moral and they are not? The paradox is chilling. Morality, which should unite us in shared values of justice and compassion, so often becomes the very weapon that divides us. The ego, ever subtle, thrives in this division. It whispers, "You are better, you are more pure, you are righteous." And we believe it because the disguise is too perfect. But pause for a moment. Strip away the comforting language, the sense of superiority, and ask yourself, how do you know your morality is not simply ego in its Sunday best? How do you know your moral outrage isn't secretly self-preservation in disguise? Your compassion, not a performance for admiration. Your principles, not an armor against your own hidden insecurities. If morality can be ego's mask, then how much of what we call goodness is real? And how much is theater? Consider this. The person who prides themselves on honesty may secretly love the feeling of being seen as noble. The person who donates to charity may not admit even to themselves that they hunger for the praise, the recognition, the self-image of being generous. The one who rails against injustice may be driven less by love for the oppressed and more by a craving for the intoxicating sense of being better than the silent masses. If so, then morality is no longer a compass pointing toward truth. It becomes a mirror that reflects back not the world as it is, but the self as the ego wishes to see it. And yet, if you abandon morality entirely, what remains? Chaos. A life without anchor or direction. The dilemma deepens. Because morality is not false, it contains real wisdom, real principles that hold societies together. But the ego knows this too. That is why it slips inside morality like a thief wearing stolen clothes, hiding its hunger beneath the fragrance of virtue. So here is the great question, the one that should unsettle you, the one that should keep you awake tonight. when you act in the name of morality, when you choose compassion, when you fight for justice, when you declare something right or wrong, who is truly speaking? Is it your higher self? Or is it your ego, disguised in robes of virtue, savoring the intoxicating pleasure of being right? And if it is the ego, how can you ever truly know? Perhaps morality is not the opposite of ego, but its masterpiece, its finest deception. The stage is set. The mask is on. The question remains, are you living by truth? Are you merely living by the ego's most brilliant lie? The hidden problem and its psychological, philosophical roots to understand how the ego hides itself within morality. We must journey into the caverns of human psychology, to the places most people fear to look. The ego is not just arrogance, pride, or vanity, as it is often reduced to in casual conversation. It is something more primordial, more subtle. It is the structure of identity itself, the silent voice that says, I am. And because it clings so desperately to existence, it will mold itself into whatever form secures survival, whether power, victimhood, or, most insidiously, moral superiority. Carl Jung once described the ego as the center of consciousness, but he also warned that it is merely a fragment of the total self. It is the light we mistake for the whole sky, forgetting the vast shadows stretching behind us. And here lies the first psychological trap. The ego is incomplete, yet it cannot tolerate incompleteness. It longs to feel whole, certain, unquestionable. So it dresses itself in morality, which offers not only rules for behavior, but also the delicious illusion of being good. But morality, when hijacked by the ego, no longer points outward toward truth. It bends inward, circling back to the self like a mirror. What I call right becomes what makes me feel right. What I call wrong becomes what threatens my identity, my status, my story. The ego does not love truth. It loves safety. And morality provides a fortress, a high ground from which it can gaze down at the world, secure in its superiority. Friedrich Nietzsche, perhaps more than any other thinker, saw through this masquerade. He argued that many moral systems were not born from divine truth, but from resentment-rich sentiment, the bitterness of the powerless reshaping their weakness into a kind of inverted strength. To be powerless yet call oneself righteous is to transform defeat into a moral triumph. It is to say, I may have no power, but I am good and they are evil. The ego thrives here because it can turn suffering into superiority. Arthur Schopenhauer, centuries earlier, took a darker view. He saw life as driven by a blind, ceaseless will to survive. For him, morality was often just the intellectual sugarcoating on this raw, selfish will. Behind every noble gesture, he suspected a hidden desire, a craving for recognition, for affirmation, for the soothing relief of ego. What looks like virtue, he suggested, is often just self-preservation draped in finer clothes. Yet Viktor Frankl, in the ashes of the Holocaust, offered a subtler counterpoint. He believed human beings are capable of transcending ego's hunger through meaning, through a commitment to something larger than the self. But even he warned, meaning itself can be corrupted when it is hijacked by ego, when it becomes less about truth and more about self-importance. To dedicate your life to a cause may still be, secretly, to dedicate your life to the preservation of your story, your sense of righteousness. Psychology confirms what philosophy intuited. Modern research into cognitive biases reveals just how profoundly self-deceptive the human mind is. Consider confirmation bias, the tendency to only accept evidence that supports what we already believe. When ego wears morality, this bias becomes a weapon. We do not search for truth, we search for validation of our supposed goodness. Or take moral licensing, the strange phenomenon where doing one good deed gives us unconscious permission to act selfishly later. The ego smiles here, content that its disguise has worked. That one generous act has secured its moral credit, while it returns to its hunger unchecked. And then there is the halo effect, the illusion that if someone or ourselves does one moral thing, it must mean they are good across all dimensions. The ego, again, thrives here, because it knows it does not need to be good. It only needs to appear good in one aspect for the entire illusion to take hold. Society amplifies this dynamic. From childhood, we are told stories of heroes and villains, saints and sinners. Rarely are we taught to sit with paradox, to admit complexity, to acknowledge the shadow. Instead, we are given neat categories of good and evil. And what does the ego do? It leaps to place itself firmly in the good category. To imagine oneself as anything else would be intolerable. So morality becomes not a path of growth, but a shield against self-examination. Jean-Paul Sartre once remarked that hell is other people. But perhaps the greater hell is ourselves, the self we refuse to confront. The shadow Jung described, the repressed aspects of the psyche, does not vanish simply because we label ourselves moral. It waits in silence, festering, feeding, and sometimes erupting in ways we cannot control. But the ego prefers blindness to honesty. It prefers the comfort of declaring, "I am good," rather than the terrifying possibility that within me lurks both light and darkness. Compassion and cruelty, selflessness and selfishness. This is why the problem is so deeply hidden. The ego does not announce itself when it wears morality. It does not shout, "I am selfish." It whispers, "I am good." It whispers it so gently, so reassuringly, that we never think to question it. And yet, beneath that whisper, the real motivation remains. Self-preservation, superiority, validation. Think of the person who condemns others harshly for their mistakes. Is it justice that drives them, or the ego savoring the feeling of being morally elevated? Think of the activist who fights for a cause but cannot tolerate dissenting voices. They truly seeking truth, or are they protecting their fragile identity disguised as righteousness? The psychological and philosophical roots intertwine here. The ego, ancient and survival-driven, hijacks morality, turning it from a compass into a mask. And because society rewards the appearance of goodness, the disguise is never questioned. It is applauded, praised, rewarded, and so the problem deepens. We are not only deceived by the ego, we are celebrated for being deceived. The mask becomes indistinguishable from the face. But if the roots are this deep, if morality itself can be hijacked so completely, what happens when we let the ego wear this mask unchecked? What unseen consequences spread out into our lives, our relationships, our societies? The answer is darker than we imagine. The unseen consequences. Ego disguises itself as morality. The deception does not stay contained within your private thoughts. It seeps outward. Slowly, silently, it reshapes how you see yourself, how you see others, and how society itself functions. The consequences are invisible at first, but they accumulate, until entire cultures are built not on truth, but on the ego's masquerade. Picture a person who has convinced themselves they are moral because they live by a certain code. To them, this feels like strength, like certainty. But in reality, The mask has welded itself to their face. Every choice they make must now align with this self-image, not with reality. When they encounter facts, people, or situations that contradict their righteousness, they cannot face them honestly. Instead, they twist them, reframe them, deny them, not because they love falsehood, but because the truth threatens their ego's survival. This is the first consequence: blindness. The ego that wears morality becomes incapable of seeing clearly. It filters out anything that might tarnish its sense of goodness. And so, the person who believes themselves just may unconsciously perpetuate injustice. The one who prides themselves on compassion may unconsciously turn cruel toward those they deem unworthy. The one who clings to honesty may deceive themselves more than anyone else. Psychologists call this moral disengagement, the process by which people rationalize harmful actions by cloaking them in moral justifications. Wars are waged under banners of righteousness. Oppression is excused as order. Hatred is baptized as truth-telling. Entire nations can descend into brutality while believing themselves noble. Because once ego claims the mantle of morality, any cruelty becomes permissible if it serves the illusion of being right. The second consequence is division. If you are moral and your morality is the ego's mask, then those who differ from you are not merely different, they are wrong. They become enemies, heretics, obstacles. The ego cannot tolerate ambiguity. It thrives on dualities: right, wrong, good, evil, us, them. And so, friendships splinter, families fracture, communities polarize. How many conversations collapse not because of truth, but because of ego disguised as moral certainty? How many debates are less about discovering reality and more about defending the self-image of being good? In these moments, morality ceases to unite, becomes a sword, cutting the world into fragments. The third consequence is hypocrisy, subtle and corrosive. Because when morality is a mask for ego, it is no longer a guide for action, but a performance for image. People begin to curate their virtue like they curate their social media profiles, polishing what the world sees, hiding what contradicts it. Outrage becomes a performance. Compassion becomes a performance. Even selflessness becomes a performance. And beneath the surface, the ego thrives, unexamined and untouched. Consider the phenomenon of virtue signaling. The public display of moral outrage or goodness, not necessarily to effect change, but to appear righteous. It feels like justice. It looks like compassion, but often it is simply the ego demanding applause. And yet, because the disguise is morality, it is rarely questioned. The fourth consequence is stagnation. If you already believe yourself moral, why would you grow? Why would you examine the shadow, confront your hidden flaws, or admit your contradictions? The ego's mask freezes you in place, forever insisting, "I am already good enough." Self-examination becomes threatening. Humility becomes unnecessary. Growth becomes optional. And so entire lives can be spent circling within the same illusions. People age, careers advance, reputations solidify, but the self remains untransformed, unchanged, because the mask has made change impossible. The fifth consequence is collective, the distortion of society itself. When morality becomes ego's disguise, laws, institutions, and cultures are built not on truth, but on performance. Political systems reward those who appear righteous rather than those who act justly. Religions fracture into sects, each declaring themselves the sole keepers of moral truth. Social movements lose their soul as the hunger for recognition replaces the hunger for real transformation. History is full of such tragedies. Think of the Inquisition, waged in the name of God, yet drenched in blood. Think of wars declared as just, yet fueled by power, greed, and pride. Think of regimes that crushed freedom in the name of order, or revolutions that promised liberation but birthed tyranny. In each case, the ego wore moralities, mass-ganned millions paid the price. And yet, the most haunting consequence may be personal, not collective. For when ego hides within morality, you lose access to your true self. Every gesture, every decision, every value is tainted by the ego's hunger. And so, even your noblest acts are haunted by doubt. Was I truly compassionate, or did I just want to feel like a good person? Did I stand for justice, or did I just crave superiority? Did I tell the truth, or did I only protect my image? This is the prison of the ego's morality. It does not simply corrupt society, it erodes the soul. Because beneath the mask, the self longs for authenticity, for truth, for freedom. But the ego, intoxicated by the applause of righteousness, silences that longing. You begin to live not as who you are, but as who your ego needs you to be. And in that silence, a quiet despair grows. The despair of never truly knowing if your goodness was real, or just another performance. This despair is rarely spoken of. Most drown it in busyness, in distraction, in endless repetition of moral performances. But late at night, when the applause fades and the ego grows quiet, a question lingers. If my morality is just my ego's mask, then who am I, really? The unseen consequences are not simply external, they are existential. They gnaw at the foundation of identity, trust, and meaning. They leave you with a haunting suspicion that the life you lived, the values you clung to, the battles you fought, may not have been yours at all. They may have belonged to the mask. And if that is true, then the cost is not merely social division or hypocrisy. The cost is the loss of yourself. But here lies the possibility for rebellion. Because once you see the mask, even in glimpses, you can begin to question it. You can begin to pull at its edges. The ego may scream, it may resist, it may fight for its survival, but awareness cracks the disguise. The question is, are you willing to rebel against the ego, even when it wears the comforting robes of morality? Are you willing to risk losing your image of being good in order to discover what is real? The rebellion is dangerous. It requires courage, humility, and a willingness to let go of everything you thought you were. But it may be the only path toward freedom. The rebellion, how to break free. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast masquerade hall. Everyone wears a mask, bright, polished, untouchable. The air vibrates with confidence, with declarations of goodness, with condemnations of those who fail to live up to the standard. Yet, as you look closer, you realize the masks are not held in the hand. They are fused to the skin. And behind every mask lies the same hidden hunger, ego, clinging to its survival by wearing the face of morality. The rebellion begins when you dare to reach up, even for a moment, and tug at your own mask. It is not easy. The mask has been there for years, perhaps decades. It feels like part of your face, part of your very being. To question it feels like questioning yourself. But the rebellion demands this courage, to ask not, how good am I, but what is beneath my goodness. The first step is the most radical of all, humility. Genuine humility, not the false kind that parades itself for applause. True humility admits the possibility that you may not be as moral as you believe, that your compassion may sometimes be performance, that your righteousness may sometimes be resentment dressed as virtue, that even in your noblest moments, the ego may still be whispering. Humility is dangerous to the ego because it punctures the illusion of certainty. It allows paradox to exist. It admits the possibility that within you there is both goodness and selfishness, both light and shadow. Carl Jung warned that without confronting the shadow, without acknowledging the darker drives within us, we remain forever at the mercy of unconscious forces. Humility is the gateway to this confrontation. It is the act of saying, I may not be who I pretend to be, and that is where I must begin. The second step is awareness. You cannot destroy the ego. It is woven into the structure of consciousness itself. But you can see it. You can catch it in the act. Notice the subtle satisfaction you feel when you denounce someone for their wrongdoing. Notice the warmth of superiority when you donate and others see it. Notice the outrage that feels less like love for justice and more like a drug of moral high ground. Each act of noticing weakens the mask, because the ego thrives in the shadows. It withers under light. The third step is paradoxically simple, yet profoundly difficult: silence. In silence, the ego cannot perform. It has no audience to impress, no applause to earn. When you sit in stillness, when you strip away the noise, the arguments, the self-congratulation, you begin to sense the small voice beneath the ego, the voice not of self-preservation, but of authenticity. Silence is terrifying for the ego, because it cannot hide there. Nietzsche once declared, "Become who you are." This rebellion is precisely that, becoming what lies beneath the mask. And often, what you discover is not grand, not glorious, but raw, trembling, unfinished. It is not the shining figure of righteousness, but the flawed human being who longs for truth even more than for goodness. And this is freedom, not the perfection of the mask, but the honesty of being unmasked. The fourth step is courage, because once you begin to live unmasked, the world may not applaud. In fact, it may condemn, for society itself thrives on the masquerade. The one who admits uncertainty, who confesses their flaws, who resists the performance of righteousness, will be seen as dangerous. Their humility threatens the pride of others. Their honesty threatens the performance. To live without the mask is to risk being misunderstood, mocked, even hated. But it is also the only way to live truthfully. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act despite fear. To say, I will not live for the applause of appearing good. I will live for the authenticity of being real. This requires the death of the old self-image, the dismantling of the pedestal you once stood upon. The ego will scream at this loss. It will warn you that without the mask, you are nothing. But that is the lie. Without the mask, you are finally something real. The fifth step is integration. Once you have glimpsed your shadow, once you have seen the ego's tricks, you must not deny them. To deny them is simply to put on another mask. Instead, you integrate them. You say, yes, I am capable of selfishness. Yes, I am capable of cruelty. Yes, my compassion is sometimes tainted by pride. And in acknowledging this, you loosen the ego's grip, because now morality is no longer the ego's armor. It is a choice, a discipline, a practice. True morality begins here, not as a performance, not as a mask, but as a conscious commitment to act beyond the ego's hunger. Compassion becomes real when you admit your capacity for cruelty and choose compassion anyway. Honesty becomes real when you admit your capacity for deception and choose truth anyway. Justice becomes real when you admit your desire for superiority and choose fairness anyway. The rebellion, then, is not against morality itself. It is against the ego's theft of morality. It is against the lie that morality equals image. The rebellion is the reclamation of morality as something raw, difficult, paradoxical, something lived, not performed. History shows us glimpses of this rebellion. Socrates, willing to die rather than betray his commitment to truth, even when accused of corrupting the youth. Gandhi, who admitted his flaws openly while still dedicating his life to non-violence. Nelson Mandela, who confessed his own anger and bitterness, yet chose reconciliation. These figures were not perfect. They were not flawless, but they were unmasked. Their morality was not a disguise, but a practice born from awareness of the ego's hunger. The rebellion is not glamorous. It is not applauded. It is quiet, patient, interior. It is the lifelong work of peeling back the mask, of catching the ego in its disguises, of choosing again and again to live authentically rather than perform. It is a rebellion waged not on battlefields, but in the silent theater of the self. And yet, if you live this rebellion, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see others differently. No longer enemies, no longer rivals in the game of righteousness, but fellow mask wearers, fellow prisoners of the ego, fellow seekers of authenticity. And in that recognition, compassion deepens, not the superficial compassion of performance, but the quiet compassion of one who knows their own flaws too well to condemn others. This is the path of rebellion. This is how you begin to break free. But what lies beyond freedom from the mask? What ultimate truth waits on the other side of rebellion? If ego can disguise itself even as morality, then what is left when the mask is gone? What is the final realization that redefines not just morality, but life itself? The answer is not easy, but it may be the only truth worth discovering. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. There comes a moment after the mask has been questioned, after the rebellion has begun, when you stand in the naked silence of yourself. No applause, no condemnation, no shining armor of morality to protect you. Just the raw presence of being. First, it feels terrifying. For so long, your ego wore morality like a shield, convincing you that your worth rested on being seen as good. Without that shield, you may feel exposed, vulnerable, even insignificant. The old self-image is gone, and in its place stands only a trembling honesty. I am not purely good. I am not purely moral. I am a mixture, a paradox, a human being. And here, in that very trembling, lies the ultimate truth. The ego's greatest lie was never simply that it could disguise itself as morality. Its greatest lie was that you needed to be perfect in order to be worthy. That only the mask of goodness could give your life meaning. That only righteousness could justify your existence. But the truth is this: you are already worthy, not because you are flawless, not because you are righteous, but because you are real. Because you exist, here, now, with the capacity to choose. The power of morality is not in being perfect, but in choosing again and again, in the face of your flaws, to reach toward something higher. Morality, stripped of ego's mask, is no longer about appearances. It is about presence. It is not about proving you are good. It is about becoming fully human, and to be human is to live in paradox. Selfish, yet capable of selflessness. Fragile, yet capable of courage. Broken, yet capable of love. Nietzsche, though often misunderstood, pointed toward this when he spoke of the Bermenschnott as a being above humanity, but as one who could create values authentically without hiding behind borrowed masks. Viktor Frankl echoed it when he insisted that even in the darkest camps, where all dignity was stripped away, the last freedom remained. The freedom to choose one's attitude, one's response, one's way of being. This is the ultimate truth. You are not defined by the mask you wear. You are defined by the choices you make when the mask falls away. And here lies the final paradox. When you no longer need to appear good, when you let go of the ego's hunger for righteousness, you become capable of true goodness. Compassion is pure when it is not performed. Justice is real when it is not a weapon of superiority. Honesty is powerful when it is not a tool for image. Only when the ego releases morality does morality become free to live. The ultimate truth is not that ego is the enemy. Ego is part of you, ancient, necessary, a builder of identity. But it must be seen for what it is, a tool, not a master. The ego's disguise as morality becomes dangerous only when you forget the disguise, when you remember, when you see, when you choose. The ego loses its control. And what emerges is not the fragile performance of a good person, but the authentic presence of a real person capable of both error and greatness, contradiction and integrity. Imagine this: a life lived not for applause, not for recognition, not even for the soothing story of I am moral, but a life lived awake, aware, present. A life where your compassion flows not from ego's hunger, but from the simple recognition of shared humanity. A life where your honesty is not a weapon, but a bridge. A life where morality is no longer a mask, but a practice, a daily act of choosing the real over the performative, the authentic over the false. This realization reshapes everything. Relationships deepen because you no longer need to perform righteousness before others. Dialogue becomes possible because you no longer divide the world into good and evil camps to protect your ego. Even suffering changes because it is no longer an assault on your identity, but a reminder of your shared humanity and society itself. Imagine what it would become if more of us lived unmasked. Politics would shift from posturing to honesty. Movements would shift from performance to transformation. Justice would no longer be about moral theater, but about real healing. The world would not become perfect, but it would become real. Arthur Schopenhauer once said that compassion is the basis of morality. Perhaps he was right, but only if that compassion is freed from the ego's grip. Compassion that flows not to protect an image, not to secure superiority, but simply because you see another being as real as yourself. And so, the final realization is this: morality is not the mask of the ego. It is the practice of the soul. It is not the performance of being good. It is the art of becoming human. And this art does not require perfection. It requires awareness. It requires humility. It requires courage. The mask will always try to return. The ego will always whisper, protect yourself, prove yourself, appear righteous. But now you know the truth. The mask may sit upon your face, but it no longer deceives you. And every time you notice it, every time you refuse to let it dictate your choices, you reclaim a little more freedom. Freedom not to be perfect. Freedom not to be righteous. freedom simply to be. And in that freedom, morality is reborn, not as ego's disguise, but as life itself, unfolding through you in each imperfect, authentic choice you make. So the final, most powerful realization is this: you do not need to wear the mask of morality to be good. You need only the courage to live unmasked. Because true morality is not about how the world sees you. It is about how you choose to see and to act when the world is no longer watching.